Hey guys, welcome to another exciting edition of Scientific Minds Unite. Hey, Mr. Van Newkirk, what are we going to be talking about today?
Oh, I don't know.
We only had a topic.
Hey, you got a lizard?
I got a lizard.
I got a lizard.
You have a lizard?
Does he have a lizard?
I have a lizard.
He's just afraid of him.
He's on the floor. Yeah, I am a little bit afraid of him, to be perfectly honest. He sees the other one, he's like, what?
Yeah, we're going to talk about bearded dragons. Bearded dragons, absolutely. We at Allen J, 3 of the science teachers happen to have bearded dragons in our classrooms. And we thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about them a little bit and give you kind of an introduction to them as creatures, and also as possible maybe a pet that you might want to consider having at some point. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about what they eat, where they live, and a whole lot more. So hang on.
All right, so a bearded dragon. What is it that makes a bearded dragon so special, so unique from all other reptiles on the planet? Well, a bearded dragon, first of all, it's a cold-blooded organism. It has scales. It has a beard, and that's where the beard here, in this case, for this particular lizard, has a multicolor. It's actually called a tiger or tiger bearded dragon. Anyway, so the beard is up underneath here, and when this animal is frightened, when it wants to send a message to another bearded dragon, as you'll see in a minute, it'll actually flare this beard out.
Take a look at this,
like
Mr. Van Newkirk. You can see when my bearded dragon gets nervous, maybe a little bit aggressive, you'll see his beard turn to this deep, dark black color. And that's a signal, right, to let the other predators and folks in his area know, hey, don't mess with me, right? So that's one of those things there.
Yep, that's correct. So, you know, its color, of course, is shaped to its environment. Mr. Nissen's going to talk about habitat and environment later on. But anyway, that's kind of what makes a bearded dragon. It kind of has a dragon-like look to it. What do you think, buddy? Huh? You okay with your name? Yeah, me too.
All right, guys, so I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the bearded dragon's habitat. So I'll start with a question. Where do you think a bearded dragon is from? Where is it native of? Is it a continent? Is it a country? I'm curious what you guys think. So if you didn't guess, they are actually native of Australia. They prefer a arid climate or a desert climate, as you might be able to see here in this enclosure. We oftentimes try to mimic that environment so they're more comfortable, because this is what they understand and what they are adapted to. So when we talk about living in a desert climate, there are a couple things that you need to keep in mind. Well, first, they need water. And where do you get water in a desert climate, right? You get water from the air, right? There's usually a little bit of air or humidity, the water in that air. They also get water from plants and insects, which is a great source. They are naturally, though, built to not need as much water as some of the other animals or creatures out there. And their camouflage, or their coloring, actually helps with that. It helps them retain that water, given their light color and their build. They can actually make themselves pretty flat and slide under rocks to stay cool, as they are cold-blooded, as Mr. Van Newkirk talked about. So they tend to take on the temperature around them. So they need to stay at a relatively cool temperature.
All right, guys, so what you may be asking yourself is a bearded dragon a good pet? Would it be right for me as a pet? Well, bearded dragons are absolutely awesome pet for a lot of reasons. One, they don't eat a lot of food, but when they do eat, they eat little grubs. You could put in some arugula, some spinach, some fruits, things like that. They're not very picky eaters. In other words, they are omnivores. So they eat both plants and animals, or insects, insectivores too, right? So as far as how big they get, this is about the size you'll see, maybe 20 inches, 18, 20 inches long from their tails all the way to the tip of their nose, right? So they don't get very big. You will need to get an enclosure probably about this size or larger, and the enclosure is really the most expensive part about owning a bearded dragon, because there's not a lot of care. There's not a lot of vet visits with a bearded dragon like you might have with your dog. There's no flea collars or any of those kind of things. There's not buying huge bags of dog food. It's pretty it likes to stay on its own and doesn't really need a whole lot. So you don't have to have a mate with it. Matter of fact, if I put my bearded dragon in with this bearded dragon, since they're both males, more than likely they might get into a scuffle, because they're they have some territoriality issues. They like to have their own space, kind of like some of you guys probably do in your bedroom. Nobody knock on my door, right? Kind of thing. So bearded dragons, good pets, omnivores. You just need to have a heat lamp, because they are cold-blooded. They need to stay a pretty consistent temperature, otherwise they might not do well. I can see here I got my super worms here I got at the pet store, and that's pretty much what I feed him exclusively, and very easy going, with the exception of this guy. This guy is very, very aggressive. All right, mine is very docile. That's a word that we're going to maybe ask you later, the word docile. So bearded dragon, great pet. Hope you guys look into it. If you haven't, go into a pet store and check one out.
All right, guys, there are just a few other things that we'd like to tell you about, specifically about how long they live, as well as the temperament of these bearded dragons. So generally, the bearded dragon can live up to 10 years, and this is a pretty big commitment, because you're talking about 10 years of your life committed to this pet. So you need to keep that in mind if you're thinking about getting a bearded dragon as a pet. As far as temperament goes, you can see that Mr. Hammond and Mr. Van Newkirk's bearded dragon is pretty laid back, pretty docile, whereas I'm scared to death of mine. It is extremely aggressive, and it does not like to be held, and it really is very much a leave me alone kind of pet. So when you talk about different temperaments, it really is true when you talk about every type of pet, truly.
Yes, it's been my experience that the more time you spend with your pet, the more it gets used to you, the more it adapts to you, and it becomes more docile. You keep hearing that word pop up over and over again. And that's what you're really looking forward and looking to in a bearded dragon, and it's just how docile is it. And you can usually tell those temperaments usually when you get them, whether they're real squirrely, whether they're kind of cool, calm, laid back.
But that's the same way as a dog or whatever. Somebody might have a really playful golden retriever that's very friendly, and then you might go to somebody else's house where the golden retriever might have a slightly different temperament, and you approach them and they're growling at you, right? So you kind of just have to pay attention to those things. I did forget to mention, this is kind of an interesting thing right here. The bearded dragon, when it pees, it doesn't come out in a liquid form. I'm gonna get a close up here. If you can bring that in here. This is what the pee looks like. It comes out in a solid form, which is very interesting, but easy to clean up, right? So I really enjoy that, because I don't have to spend a lot of time on my cage making sure that I'm keeping the smell down or anything like that. Just occasionally have to pick up a little bit of poop, and that's about it. So really, actually a pretty cool thing. So is that it? Is that all we have, guys?
That's pretty much it. I mean, that's
it. Yeah.
That's a bearded dragon in a nutshell. Great pet. Just remember, you got to really think. You got to really think about the long-term commitment. Think, can I feed it? Can I provide a habitat for it? and am I in it for the long haul? So I love having mine. I know you guys enjoy having yours, and
I don't really enjoy having mine.
Absolutely. So if you're in
Like I
Allen
said.
J, if you're in the Allen J neighborhood, stop by and come by and see our bearded dragon. Mine's named Blackbeard. What's your name?
My name's Captain Jack.
What's yours?
Mine is Scout.
Scout.
He's over there.
Also known as Killer. So that's all we have for Scientific Minds Unite. Thank you so much for joining us. We really enjoyed sharing our dragons with you and hope you guys have a fantastic day. Take care.